Welcome to Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Kevin Delp.
And I'm Melissa Delp.
Today we're looking at Gearworks from Piecekeeper Games. Gearworks is a 2 to 4 player card game that utilizes hand management, area control, and card placement. It's from Piecekeeper Games and it's on Kickstarter this November.
You're playing as tinkerers in a steampunk workshop. You're trying to fix a machine by placing cards into a grid. If you can be the last person to fix a certain part, you'll be able to collect that part and hopefully be able to use it in a wonderful contraption that you're building. Whoever has the most points at the end of 3 rounds will be the winner.
Let's look at the prototype components. You have gear cards and contraption cards, gear tokens, parts, sparks, and player reference cards. There will also be a playmat as an add-on in the Kickstarter campaign.
The play area is set up as a grid, A through E as the columns, and 1 through 4 as the rows. During setup, 4 cards are placed in the grid.
Players start with a hand of gear cards and some sparks and 1 contraption card. The contraption shows the parts needed to build it.
The main action on your turn is playing a gear card somewhere in the play area. The rules are pretty simple. In a column, the card colors must be different, no duplicates. But color doesn't matter in the rows. In a row, cards must be in either ascending or descending numerical order. Numbers can be skipped though. Turning the arrows to point which way the cards are going is a helpful reminder. So if you lay a 1 next to this 9, the choices will be limited in the future.
Right, because you can always lay the same number next to it, like a 1 here. But no other number could go in these other spots except a 1 now. Players do have the option of laying on top of another card, but that costs 2 sparks, and the new card must follow placement rules.
A couple of things happen when you lay a card. First, you do some math. You see if 2 of the cards that are next to your card add or subtract to equal your card. If it does, you gain a spark. You can't do this if you replace a card, though.
Then you turn the gear tokens on the column and row that you placed your card. So now you control them. This is important for the end of the round.
There are several other things you can do on your turn. Discard 2 cards to gain a spark, buy gear cards for 1 spark each, or pay 2 sparks to buy a new contraption card. You can do this before or after you place your 1 card in the play area. If you can't play a card or you don't want to play a card, you can pass. But there is a penalty if you decide later that you want to jump back in and play again. You have to pay a spark, and you can only do it if there are other players who are still playing who haven't passed. Because once everyone has passed, the round ends.
Here's where the gear tokens come into play. Anyone who controls a gear token at the end of the round gets that part. They can then apply any of those parts to a contraption they play this round. If you receive parts that don't match your contraption, that's okay. They count as 2 points each at the end of the game. You can't use them for future contraptions.
You will get more gear cards and a new contraption at the beginning of each round. At the end of 3 rounds, you count up your points. Contraptions with both parts score 9 points. A contraption with 1 part scores 4 points. Unused parts are 2 points, and sparks are 1 point. This game reminds me a little bit of Sudoku. You have that aspect of trying to place numbers into the grid to gain control or to gain sparks. Of course, your options are limited by the card you actually have in your hand.
But you can increase those options by having sparks to trade for more gear cards, by replacing cards on the grid. So it's important to try to gain those sparks when you're laying your gear cards.
Right, I like that added layer of strategy with the math and trying to get the sparks. I also like that the parts that you collect have to be used that round. You can't save them across multiple rounds for your contraptions. So that adds a level of decision making and tension at the end of the round. Say you have a contraption but you only have 1 part. Do you lay it for those 4 points, or do you keep that contraption card and hope you can get both of those parts next round?
The steampunk theme is integrated into everything in this game. The gears are cool, and I think the illustrations on the contraption cards are awesome. And they look like they were drawn on parchment paper. You can tell a lot of thought was put into the aesthetic design of the game.
We were able to play this game a number of times, even with different game groups. And I would say if you're not really a fan of math, I mean, it is simple math.
It's simple math.
But if you're not really a fan of that, you might not like the game. But I think out of all the people we played with, there was maybe one who it wasn't really their thing, but everyone else really enjoyed it. We even had some friends ask us to bring it back so we
Yes.
could play it again.
That was really, really neat. So if you enjoy numbers and like games like Sudoku, like games with a steampunk theme, with some strategic gameplay, then check out Gearworks by Piecekeeper Games on Kickstarter this November.